the Mayhem campaign diary number 4. It's our 4th session now. We're really starting to kick things off, I think. Everything's going a bit more of a faster pace. I really do like that. I'm getting a better feel for them and what they will respond to. This was another shorter session, I think, where not a whole lot happened, even though we did seem to play for a little while. Unfortunately, one of our players missed. The halfling rogue wasn't able to make it, Suri. They ended up leaving her behind in the capital. I'm going to have to work with her to see what she was doing. Most likely just stealing something, because that seems to be the type of character that she plays. This is the beginning of the campaign really taking off, I think, because I kind of, after the very first session, and I realized that they weren't going to really bite onto any of the political intrigue stuff, I just kind of had to throw everything I had planned to the side. So every session after that was just kind of me buying time to kind of set other things up and get ready, and while still trying to get used to how they play and what they expect. The last session ended as everyone went to bed, so the following morning is when this one began. Azrael was, after everyone got breakfast, Azrael was met by Arkan, who delivered the information to him that he requested, possible magic items or artifacts that he might be able to hunt down. And he told him of a keep on the edge of Valerian lands, known as Fangwood. The keep had supposedly been occupied by a AWOL knight and his unit from House Westerling. He knew that it had always been suspected that some kind of magic item had been there, but no one had ever found it, and that is thought to be, at least by Arkan sources, why this knight went AWOL and why he took the keep. So that was what Azrael wanted to go after. Garion turned in his bounty from the prologue of sorts, and then he was able to pick up one for a Pavos Voss, the leader of Voss's strikers, who just so happened to be the knights that were occupying Fangwood. So, then he had a reason to go for that as well. Gideon is pretty much in for anything that could possibly get him money, and upon knowing that Azrael's family would most likely reward them for reclaiming this keep that was taken, it was kind of a bit of an honor thing for them. He was very interested in going. And then we had Tristan, who while they didn't have a specific reason to want to go, it was more of there was story and adventure to be had. Tristan, before leaving, decided to hunt down the black market in town, and successfully did so. There was not anything that he was too interested in buying, though. He did find a mimic key, a key that after it's been forged is quenched in the blood of a mimic, and then it can turn into any key that it is touched to. I was actually rather proud of that. Like, I had a list of magic items that could be found in this black market, and Mimic Key was there, and I knew what it did, but I made up on the spot that after it was forged, it was quenched in the blood of a mimic. I'm fairly certain I said that there was some other items there, but off the top of my head, I don't remember what they were. There weren't any weapons, and that was really what Tristan was looking for. And I explained that magic weapons were particularly hard to come by because, well, for one, in just 5e, they're much rarer. But not only that, in Rogarvian lands, which is where they are, they're heavily regulated because it's constantly because that's where the sword lords are, and they are constantly being watched over, and the Dalrathi nobles don't want them to basically get their hands on anything too powerful, so they keep a very close eye on that. But the black market proprietor did say that he could keep an eye out for it, but the item would likely be much more expensive due to the danger of him trying to acquire it himself. Upon leaving, it was determined that they would be traveling through 4 hexes by road, and then 1 hex just through plains and hills. So it was determined it would be a 6-day journey. I had them roll for a random encounter. I only intended for there to be 1, so basically for each day of travel, there's a chance of a random encounter, and then if after 1 happens, the rest of the journey is eventless, so that way you're not bogged down with too much going on. And they got their random encounter on the first day. I then had them roll percentiles to determine what their random encounter would be, and they rolled a rather interesting one. They met essentially Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean. He was an illithid dressed in pirate regalia. He had a carriage that was powered to move on its own, and was kind of it was basically a land boat. And he had undead manning the boat. And when they met him, they had just found some bodies on the side of the road that had been attacked by hobgoblins. And he hopped in. He raised the bodies and put them on his boat. At first, I think they were thinking they were going to fight him until I told them that it was an illithid, as they made the checks to identify it. Then they did history checks, and I believe it was Tristan and Garion that had heard stories of this particular illithid before. Everyone knows he's essentially crazy, and the fact that he uses magic definitely means that he's an outcast, because it's not psionics that he's raising these with, it's actual magic, necromancy. And for the most part, everyone just kind of leaves him alone. He'll raise the bodies, and he'll even do the thing, "Do you feel death?" That whole spiel, and it was rather funny. I actually had a voice mod software that I was able to use for the first time, and I used like an echo thing, and it creeped them out. It was to great effect. I really enjoyed that, worth every penny. Can't wait to use it some more. But they knew that many people had ran into he's known as Davy before, and everyone sort of knew that if you just left him alone and let him do his thing, he never really hurt anybody. So that's what they did, and then they moved on, and the rest of the trip to Fangwood was mostly uneventful. Tristan was trying to hunt each day to get fresh meat in order to give to his dog, and on the third day, got a natural 1 on their check, and I determined that while they were stalking what they thought was a very large animal, and then they fired into the brush after it, they hit Garion in the ass. That was kind of a running joke for the rest of the session, that Garion was very unhappy with Tristan. It was very funny. And I give props to Trace for being a good sport about it. It was very fun. I probably should give him an extra boon point for that, but I didn't think about that at the time until just now. When they made it to Fangwood, they did some preliminary scouting with a combination of the Tressum familiar as well as a Tristan with a spyglass, and they were able to determine that the guards on the outside of Fangwood Keep were not actually humans. They were hobgoblins wearing human armor, and that there were several pits dug around Fangwood Keep that were filled with dead humans and probably some hobgoblins. I keep wanting to say bugbear, but it's not. They're hobgoblins. Now, Fangwood Keep has a clearing out around it of about 150 feet, so they knew they couldn't approach it during the day without being seen, and they knew they needed to wait till night. On the way back from reconnaissance, Tristan happened to spot a rock that had a symbol that he recognized from some ancient mage that had long since been forgotten because they disappeared. I do feel a little disappointed. I feel like Mary wanted the significance of this symbol to be more than what it was. Wasn't able to think of a lot on the spot, sadly. I should have prepared more for that, but it was just a bit of history I didn't expect to be drilled on so much. And when she told everyone else about this rock, then Azrael was able to remember that rock with the special symbol is actually a marker that had been used to determine a secret tunnel into Fangwood. Once night fell, they were able to approach the keep unseen. All of them rolled fantastic stealth checks. Even Garion in his armor, they gave him disadvantage. And they were able to get inside, and the secret tunnel leads them into basically the walls of the keep on the first floor. There's about a 5-foot wide tunnel in the walls. And in there they found the only surviving member of Voss's strikers, Acri Bellring. After showing him that they were neither his reinforcements nor were they with the bugbears, and they revealed to him that when they questioned Acri, he thought basically that they had been there under orders from the Westerlings, and he was taken aback when they suggested that the strikers had gone AWOL, and he was like, "No, we're here under orders. They're given to us by our leader. This is like I guess we're in war again with the Valerians." And they basically told him that Garion was there to collect the bounty on their leader's head because he had gone AWOL. Through him, they were able to learn just kind of the basics of the keep. They learned that there were a lot more hobgoblins there than they had expected. At any given time, there were 12 sleeping in the barracks, 6 watching the front door, and then there were more upstairs. I know the party itself seems to be leaning towards the idea of one being very cautious. They're thinking of taking Acri and just leaving because they don't have the manpower to fight so many hobgoblins themselves, which I won't say is true. I mean, there are ways that it could be done. It just remains to be seen. Before we ended, they were actually discussing the idea of poisoning the hobgoblins because of getting access to the kitchen and poison that way to lower their numbers. Which isn't a bad idea. It could theoretically work. I don't see a reason why it couldn't. After all, they do all eat. But I mean, any plan that they try to perform, they need to get further into the keep. Right now, they're technically still within its walls. They've not exactly set foot in it in the strictest sense. They do know that the secret area that they're in will lead them to the second floor, where there are less bugbears. So it is possible that not bugbears, hobgoblins. So it is possible that they might do something different once they go up there and get a feel for the environment. Remains to be seen. I actually need to plan some things on the side to figure out what Suri is doing back in the capital. And then I need to prep for whatever battles take place here. If they do, they might leave. Who knows? Overall, the session was good. I am rather enjoying that we are getting back to a more structured sense, because after having to turn away from like the more political intrigue and find basically just traditional quests for them to go on to, the past 2 sessions were just kind of me allowing them to dick around while I allow them to naturally be pushed in a direction where they could be doing these quests. I suspect they're going to be having more fun with it now than what they were before. But that remains to be seen, and we'll see what happens next time. It's 1 in the morning here, so I'm going to get some rest.